on, vinyl community and KISS Army? Welcome to another episode of A Guide to KISS Bootlegs, delving into the unofficial realm of KISS recordings. This episode will be focusing on the legendary show at Anaheim Stadium in Anaheim, California on August 20th, 1976 during the Destroyer Tour. Now, I had planned on talking about this show at some point during this series because it is cemented into the annals of early KISS bootlegs dating back to the 1970s, but I figured with the upcoming release of KISS Destroys Anaheim 76, where Eddie Kramer has remixed the show from the multitracks, it became more of an incentive to cover this much sooner. This video will go into the backstory behind the Anaheim show, how it circulated in terms of which bootlegs they appeared on in both audio and video circles, and I'll share what vinyl pressings I have of that show in my personal collection. There's quite a bit to get through, so enough of the chit chat. Let's jump into what this video is all about. So let's jump back in time to Friday, August 20th, 1976 at Anaheim Stadium for a rock and roll extravaganza featuring KISS with opening acts Ted Nugent, Bob Seger, and Montrose, with Flo and Eddie of Turtles and Frank Zappa fame serving as MCs for the day. Other attractions for the day included Steve McPeak doing a high wire act 150 feet above the audience from one part of the stadium roof to another, which set a new record at the time, and hot air balloonist Captain Schosberg attempted to take flight but not getting too off the ground. Promoter David Forrest and his company Fun Productions pulled out all the stops in promoting this event by renting out an iconic billboard and placing ads in the LA Times a full 7 weeks before the show took place. It wasn't until the show was weeks away that video projections were mentioned in the print ads, but we'll touch on that a little later. Given the scale of the Destroyer's tour stage set, which was meant to emulate the apocalyptic scenery of the album cover, it was a theatrical production that lent itself to the ever-growing movement at the time of adapting rock music into a stadium spectacle. As I mentioned, Flo and Eddie were MCs for the day, so that meant that KISS did not come out to their now standardized "You Wanted the Best" introduction. Instead, the comedic duo came on stage dressed in pseudo-KISS makeup and costumes and announced the group. And just as the show starts and Gene and Paul make their way down the stairs on the sides of Peter's drum kit, Gene actually trips and disappears within the cloud of dry ice that's filling up the stage, but recovers quickly and the band rip through an absolutely exciting and energetic show. As for the set list, it was pretty much what became the standard Destroyer set after the group ironed out the kinks during the beginning of the tour and dropped Watchin' You, Flaming Youth, and supposedly Sweet Pain for other cuts like Cold Gin and Hotter Than Hell. All the theatrics were intact between Ace's smoking guitar during his solo spot after Cold Gin, Gene spitting blood before God of Thunder, and breathing fire at the end of Firehouse. One theatrical aspect that was unique to this show was the addition of the New York skyline lighting fixture that lit up as Peter's drums were levitating, and a massive array of fireworks signaled the show's finale. Overall, the Anaheim Stadium show was a massive success. The reported audience of 42,987 was by far KISS's biggest audience in America at the time as a headliner, and the show was ranked the 15th top stadium concert of the year, generating over $430,000 in revenue, not to mention almost $36,000 in merchandise alone. One of the things to consider about the Destroyer Tour is that this was KISS's first foray into playing at stadiums, and this tour kind of proved that it was something that they shouldn't pursue much going forward given the poor and varying attendance records in certain markets, some being as low as around 39% capacity. But given the hype machine surrounding Anaheim, it paid off immensely and made for a brilliant PR strategy. Keep in mind, this is also when Beth was released as the fourth and final single from Destroyer. So this show is a true snapshot of the band on the roller coaster slowly climbing its way to the top and plays a small role, I think, in further developing the KISS brand. So let's talk about bootlegs. So the Anaheim show became one of the earliest KISS bootlegs to circulate within the underground market around late 1976/early 1977, sourced from a solid audience recording known as KISS Destroys Anaheim. Now, what's interesting about this release is that the running order didn't reflect the full show, but more so a curation that featured the following songs: Hotter Than Hell, Nothing to Lose, Cold Gin, Shout It Out Loud, Do You Love Me, Rock and Roll All Night, Firehouse, and Black Diamond. Now, these were the days when bootlegs were nothing more than a colored Xerox sheet in front of a plain white jacket, so copies that were printed on different colors have proven to be quite collectible. The standard and most recognizable cover features a shot of Gene that was lifted from the then new On Tour program, but reissues that were done on other labels feature alternate cover art. The remaining songs from the show being Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, Strutter, God of Thunder, and Deuce, and from the same audience source as before, were released around the same time as Kiss Destroys Anaheim Part 2, though alternatively released as Unnecessary Evil with a different cover. Flash forward to 1989, both volumes were released together in one package as the aptly titled Kiss Destroys Anaheim Part 1 and Part 2. Then in 2012, there was the KISS Carton series, which reissued a lot of the classic 70s era bootlegs, and both parts of Destroys Anaheim got re-released on colored vinyl and picture disc with updated artwork. A year later, both parts were combined with the remaining tracks from Hempstead 1975, the core of which comprised another classic bootleg called Second Kiss in Long Beach, and that was both included in the Gods of Thunder box set and released separately, and this has become the default version for all future pressings of the audience source. There was a re-release as part of the KISS Boot series that featured a new yet old school looking cover and an alternate cover variant with Gene on the front, which is what I have in my collection. Though it's been done digitally, I'm genuinely shocked that there isn't a vinyl pressing that presents the audience source in the show's intended running order. When it comes to audience recordings, I've always said that even if the sound quality is rough, you can admire the group's performance, but in the case of Destroys Anaheim, not only does it sound solid, but you can get a vibe of what the audience was like. You can hear personal commentary in between tracks and experience reactions when certain songs are played, etc. But one of the moments on this release that gives me goosebumps every time I hear it is Black Diamond. Sure, Paul starts it off unaccompanied, but when he says hit it and the band comes in, there's pyro and a flash pot that goes off, and you can hear the fans going absolutely nuts. And that's the kind of stuff us diehard fans who would do anything to time travel and see either this show or Kiss during their golden years love experiencing. Now, remember what I said about video projections being mentioned in some of the print ads leading up to the show? There were 20 by 26 foot screens on each side of the stage that showed close-up shots of the group shot by a 4-camera crew fed through Edifier projectors 150 feet from the stage, which was a necessary measure to give fans in the faraway seats and stands something to see. Now, what was projected on the screens was captured on videotape, and from a historical standpoint, it's great to have this pro shot video, but the shaky camera work doesn't hold a flame to another pro shot from the tour like The Summit. Now, this became a show that the band did own and was used in some official capacities. Some of it appeared in both the Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun commercials, and an excerpt of Let Me Go Rock and Roll was included in the Extreme Close-Up documentary, and that is it. Surprisingly, this wasn't included in Kissology, and it's kind of frustrating that as of now, we're not getting a visual companion with this new Destroys Anaheim 76 release. Even if it's not the best visual piece, it's still historical. Now, the audio of the video leaves a lot to be desired. It's either a monitor mix or some type of open air recording. Regardless, it's a bit rough. The mix kind of adjusts itself within the first couple of songs. The Pro Shot started to circulate around the 1980s when the contents of Bill Aucoin's warehouse started to get auctioned off, and that's how things like Winterland 75 and Kobo 76 came to light. Now, aside from the Pro Shot / projection feed, Bill Aucoin had also set up a camera at the Soundboard to capture wide shots of the full stage production. And for the longest time, just Black Diamond from the wide angle circulated, but the full show from that angle emerged during the Sam Loomis leaks in 2022. So even audio bootlegs aside, Anaheim 76 definitely has a very interesting visual history. Last but not least, we have the Soundboard source of this show. This started circulating amongst collectors around the turn of the 2010s and received its first vinyl pressing in 2020 under the title Anaheim the Complete Soundboard, and that's what I have in my collection. And this is certainly one of the gold standards in how to do modern KISS bootlegs right. Everything down from the full color jacket, you have the obi strip on the side, you got the gatefold spread. There's also a great booklet / program inside featuring print ads, as well as photos from the show. You even get blueprints of the Destroyer stage. Great shot of the crowd there. Fantastic stuff. It also does come with a giant fold-out poster, which I will show for you all. Hopefully you guys can catch it all on camera there. And it also comes pressed on colored vinyl as well. It's absolutely stunning. Now, there was also another pressing done in 2025 under the name Destroys Anaheim, but this comes in a hardcover style packaging with a 60-page book, pressed on colored vinyl, comes with a 7-inch picture disc, as well as a DVD of the Pro Shot video. Now, let's touch on this important and now obvious facet about Anaheim. Eddie Kramer was hired to record this show via multitrack for who knows what use, and it is unknown whether this soundboard has any connection to those Eddie tapes, whether it's some sort of mixdown, or if this is a genuine off the soundboard recording captured onto a cassette. The origin is unknown. Now, even though we are getting perhaps the definitive representation of this show on the upcoming KISS Destroys Anaheim 76 release, I can't really bring myself to part ways with this. I think it'll serve as a fun basis for comparison, and also hear the show without all the fairy dust that makes it viable for a commercial release. So as you can tell, KISS's show at Anaheim Stadium in 1976 is one of the more well-documented performances in history, with a plethora of different audio and visual recordings to feast your eyes and ears over. It also makes fans a bit more hands-on with how they experience the show. I'm sure there are some Matrix recordings of both the audience and soundboard sources paired together, and a notable upgrade to the Pro Shot video is syncing it to the soundboard audio and losing that rough video audio. Regardless of how you hear it, it's an absolutely outstanding show and a notable event in history. And there you guys go. That wraps up the second episode of A Guide to KISS Bootlegs, focusing on KISS Destroys Anaheim. If there are any bootlegs from specific eras, tours, lineups, or a particular show you want me to focus in on in future episodes, please drop a comment down below. I'd love to know. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.